wanting to get a real shower, not a Gatorade bath, because I want to get focused on Alabama. They got a 5-6 hour head start, so I'm not. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not interested in celebrating that. We'll look back on that win, and that'll be great. But we're focused on the task ahead. That's the objective, and that's what our guys. They worked their tail off for 3 to 4 weeks to get this opportunity, and it was a one-game season, and now it's another one-game season. I'm not focused on Gatorade baths.
Ooh, welcome into the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And flying solo for this episode. Tried to get Cousin Shane on the line. He's buried at work, so we'll hope to have him back on the line some point this week. Should have already working the phone lines, trying to get some great guests lined up. So we'll see what we can come up with this week on the podcast with things drying up. But, of course, the big news over the weekend, the NFL Draft. I thought on this episode we just break down NFL Draft news and notes, my thoughts on it, winners, losers, and break down each and every selection from all 13 SEC teams. Vanderbilt is the only program in the SEC didn't have a draft selection, but hey, they have that in common with the University of Texas. So let's we'll get to that in just a second, but no surprise, the SEC dominates once again in the 2022 NFL Draft. The conference set an all-time record for most draft picks, tying it last year's record, 65 total players from the SEC selected in the draft. Again, that ties an NFL draft record. Just incredible. The SEC has had the most drafts selections, 16 drafts in a row. I'll say again, 16 drafts in a row. The SEC leads the way, and it'll be the next 16 the way the conference continues to trend. We may be on a... The SEC may never give up this title, for being completely honest, but Texas Longhorns, like I said, they ain't going to be helping that statistic too much. The Longhorns had 0 picks in the draft. And how about this stat? Vanderbilt, which again, Vanderbilt didn't have any in here either. But if you want to go back, this is not an outlier for the Longhorns. You go back to the 2014 draft, Vanderbilt has had more selections than Texas. So we're talking 8 drafts here. Vanderbilt has had more players drafted than the Texas Longhorns. That's hilarious. If you watch the draft, I'll get into this god-awful coverage, but Chris Angel came out twice. I think on Thursday it was, and Friday he was doing tricks. He was spinning in the air, doing all kinds of wacky stuff. He's a magician out there in Las Vegas. Chris Angel got more airtime than Texas got in this draft. Kansas had a player drafted. I thought that was hilarious. They had a damn marriage during the draft up at the podium. And here's what I'll say. Why in the hell are we doing this still? I have no idea who's deciding the content here for these drafts. Maybe NFL Network's a lot better. I don't know. I'm stuck with the ABC version because I don't have cable. But the first night of the draft rolled around, I watched Pat McAfee on YouTube. I just watched his show. Significantly better than anything I saw on cable. And think about it here. We got ESPN, all their channels, ESPN2, ESPN Ocho, SEC Network. We got NFL Network. It's also on ABC now. Like I said, I'm watching it with my bunny ears there, free of charge on ABC. Maybe I'm getting because I'm watching the free one, I'm getting the shittiest one. Maybe that's the deal. But how about we have one channel? I don't care what ESPN channel you want it on. You announce the pick, pros and cons of that player, how he fits in to his new NFL team, maybe the pros and cons of why he went where he went, why he dropped, why he fell. Grade the pick as it happens. Let's have a panel, 4 or 5 guys on here that actually know what the hell they're talking about, instead of these former players or announcers that are trying to be famous and trying to make jokes and all this, and College Game Day cracking it up. I don't understand what the hell we're doing with this thing. So hopefully, if you're out there listening, someone can get this NFL draft coverage fixed. Just announce the picks, give us some legitimate analysis, and what's pretty much beyond the second or third round. They don't even announce the picks. It's a scrolling bar. Half the picks are announced during the commercial. It really irritates me. But beyond the first round, I've watched the whole thing on mute because it's kind of pointless to hear what they're trying to say. So that's my little spiel. I was a little fired up about it. Cousin Shane, I know he didn't watch anything beyond round one. He didn't miss anything because it's complete garbage to watch out. But enough of me bitching here. Biggest winners of the draft, no debate here. We're going to break down each team's picks in just a second. But the Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart, 15 selections, all-time record. Several records set by the Georgia Bulldogs in this draft. We'll get to that in just a moment. But just imagine the sales pitch now. Anybody with a Georgia scholarship offer is getting bombarded with, hey, we just had 15 players drafted off our national championship team. Georgia, I'll make a bold prediction. It's not that bold. I promise it's not that bold. But I think Georgia's probably going to have the number one recruiting class in the country this cycle when all's said and done. And it's going to be, many reasons. Kirby's already an elite recruiter. Athens has got so much going for it. I know they just won the national championship. All those reasons alone, they can get the number one recruiting class in the country. But this 15 draft picks is going to push them over the edge. That's my prediction I'm willing to make right now. Kirby Smart, Georgia Bulldogs, huge winners. The biggest winner of the NFL draft. It's not debatable. Next biggest winner? This one's for you, Cousin Shane. You don't show up on the pod, but I'll still give you some love. Tennessee, Josh Heupel. They had 5 selections, which was in the top 5 of the SEC. And again, this is not a program that you come into the year thinking a lot of hope, a lot of draft prospects. They just had more draft selections, I should say, than they had in the previous 3 drafts combined. So that's what you want to see if you're a recruit, if you're a player under Josh Heupel. This coaching staff can get you to the next level, and that's something that Kentucky and Mark Stoops have been doing for about 5 or 6 years now. Down there in Lexington, Kentucky and Mark Stoops got to be on the list of winners with all the talent they're producing. They didn't have a high number of draft picks this season, but they had some top-end prospects. They're going to have more and more for years to come. They're just doing it every year. I mean, it's undebatable what they're doing in Lexington. And how about this? The other biggest winner I got here, Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. Aside from, he's already got one guy in the transfer portal here that he picked up last year, can turn around and sell. I can get you to the NFL. We already know that's what he's pitching these players in the transfer portal now, and it's working. Now he's got some proof with Chance Campbell, Matt Corral, getting him to the NFL. Sam Williams sticking through with that guy after, he had some issues there off the field. Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss, 6 selections. That's just tremendous. Biggest losers, already hit on it. Texas. Got to throw that in one more time while I can. How about Ed Orgeron? We love you to death on this show, Ed. But 10 draft selections for LSU. Team won, 6 games last year. That's just god-awful. And, some of this is, remnants of the 2019 team. But you got to do better than 6-6 with 10 draft selections. Only Georgia had more than LSU, all the talent you had. And probably the biggest loser, ESPN's draft coverage, like I already went into. I don't want to get into that all again. But I did love, again, they're having this in Vegas. I hope you guys know this name, Wayne Newton. I know him from the Chevy Chase National Lampoon's movie. He got to announce a pick, and this man, he was hammered. Let's kick it over to Wayne Newton here for just a second.
With the 90th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select, we'll do it together, Dylan Parham from Mississippi.
Oh, Wayne been hanging out with cousin Shane. Based on that little clip, you know what? So I just thought that was hilarious. I had to throw that in there. That was one thing ESPN got right. Let's give them that. But hey, on to the selections here. Georgia, again, we're gonna go in order of the programs that had the most draft picks, not only in the SEC, most in the country. Again, NFL record, 15 selections for the Georgia Bulldogs. And how about this? They got that in 6 rounds. They didn't have a player drafted in the 7th round. So they broke the all-time NFL draft record, 15 selections in 6 rounds. That's just incredible. 5 defensive players selected in the 1st round. That is an NFL draft record. 7 defenders picked through 3 rounds. Another NFL record. Woo. Georgia, I cannot imagine the sales pitch you got going on down there in recruiting now that we've seen this draft come and go. So again, 1st round selections, covered this on the last show, but Tron Walker, number 1 overall to the Jaguars. Jordan Davis went to the Eagles. Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, both in the 1st round to the Packers. And Lewis Seen, the safety, to the Vikings. He closed out round 1. But here we got a couple picks in the 2nd round. George Pickens, Steelers. Cousin Shane's fired up about that. James Cook, outstanding running back, to the Buffalo Bills in the 2nd round. Moving to the 3rd. How in the hell did Nakobe Dean fall? I have no idea, but it's the Eagles' gain, because that's where Nakobe Dean's probably going to play for about 10 years. Channing Tindall to the Miami Dolphins. In the 4th round, Zamir White to the Raiders, and punter Jake Kamara to the Tampa Bay Bucks. In the 6th round, Justin Schaefer to the Falcons, Jamarie Salyer to the Chargers, DeAndre Kendrick to the Rams, and John Fitzpatrick to the Atlanta Falcons. There's your record-breaking 15 for the Georgia Bulldogs. And just, I don't want to rain on Georgia's parade here or anything, although that's basically what I'm going to do here. For the rest of the SEC, and in particular the SEC East, that's something to look at, because 15 draft selections, I know Georgia's loaded, but we may be overlooking the fact that they have a ton of talent to replace on the field this year in Athens. Maybe that gives you a little glimmer of hope there on Rocky Top in Lexington, in Gainesville, in Columbia, Missouri. Georgia, 15 players off to the NFL. That's going to be impossible to duplicate, but it's not going to stop Kirby and company from trying this year as they try to win the SEC championship and hopefully return to the college football playoff and defend their national title. Now, jumping down to LSU, again, 10 selections for them Bayou Tigers. Derek Stingley, top 3 overall to the Houston Texans. Covered that on the last episode. Now here we go. 2nd round, Ed Ingram to the Vikings. 3rd round, Ty Davis Price to the 49ers. 4th round, Cade York to the Browns. How about that? A kicker in the 4th round. Neil Farrell to the Raiders. Now here's one I love. 5th round, Damone Clark, Dallas Cowboys. I know Clark had some kind of injury issue, I think, popped up in the pre-draft process. But, man, this could be the steal of the draft here in the 5th round to get a productive player, Damone Clark. 6th round, 2 offensive linemen, Austin Deckles to the Texans and Chasen Hines to the New England Patriots. And then in the 7th round, linebacker Andre Anthony to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Again, 10 selections for LSU. Ooh, that's crazy. 2nd most in the SEC. I believe that's top 5 in the country for draft selections in this cycle. Next on the list, Alabama, 7. 3rd best in the SEC. Of course, Evan Neal to the Giants. He was the number 7 overall pick. Jameson Williams was the number 12 overall pick to the Detroit Lions. Moving on to the 2nd round, John Mechie to the Houston Texans. Phidarian Mathis to the Washington Commanders. It's so weird to say Commanders. They'll always, I don't even know if we can say Redskins, but that's kind of what it is to me. And hell, all they do is drop the Alabama guys. They drafted another one in the 3rd round, Brian Robinson. I guess Washington is just all in on, if we draft enough Alabama players, maybe we can get Nick Saban up here one day. Christian Harris, the linebacker, also went in the third round to the Houston Texans. And then in the fourth round, Jalen Armour-Davis to the Baltimore Ravens. And, so a very top-heavy draft selection here for Alabama. But that gives you an idea, I think, of how much talent Nick Saban's got returning on the field next season in Tuscaloosa, and a really good indication why Alabama's going to be one of the favorites, as they always are, to win the SEC, to win the national championship. They are loaded, losing just 7 players here to the NFL draft, and hell, they picked up about 7 transfers that are NFL bound. So I don't know, we'll see how that plays out on the field. But again, Ole Miss, big winner here. Lane Kiffin and company, 6 selections. That's next best in the SEC. Sam Williams went in the second round to the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys picking up players left and right here from the SEC. Matt Corral fell all the way to the third. That was stunning. But now he's going to have maybe a very ideal landing spot here. Carolina Panthers, who all they got is Sam Darnold, so they ain't got much. Matt Rule, they're missing a quarterback there in Carolina. Could Matt Corral be the answer? Going to touch on that in just a second. 5th round, Snoop Conner to the Jaguars. 6th round, Chance Campbell to the Titans. Again, that's the guy I was saying you pick him up out of the transfer portal, get him in the NFL draft. That's what these prospects want to see. And then in the 7th round, linebacker Mark Robinson to the Steelers and defensive back Dean Leonard to the Chargers. But I wanted to hit on this Matt Corral thing because one thing going back to this coverage of the draft, and I believe it was old Ian Rappaport who, I think he screwed up on this one, because while Matt Corral was falling, he said around the league, the word is this guy's got an alcohol problem and he's got depression issues, and that's why Matt Corral is falling. And what does that even mean, alcohol issues? I mean, imagine for a second, I know probably everybody listening to this, myself included, cannot totally relate to this, but imagine being young 20, SEC quarterback, starting quarterback, one of the best players in the country, in one of the best college towns in America, Oxford, Mississippi. You're going to have a lot of opportunities to have some fun. And yet we're doubting this guy's ability on the field, where he started at Ole Miss for 2 years, one of the best players in the country, but he likes to drink and has depression. Hell, he didn't look too rough out there every Saturday in the damn fall, did he? I don't know. It's okay, I think, to talk about players' injury issues and maybe medical things that pop up. That was something that apparently Nakobe Dean was dealing with in the pre-draft process. That makes sense. But to kind of put this guy's issues, potential, out on the line like this for everybody to see, when, I thought we were moving away from stigmatizing people that are dealing with mental issues, but apparently we're not at old NFL Network and Ian Rappaport. So I just hate to see that, and that just makes me root harder for Matt Corral to go kill it in the NFL with the Carolina Panthers. Now again, Tennessee, 5 draft picks next on the list. That's pretty surprising. 5 picks, again, more than Tennessee had in the previous 3 NFL drafts combined. And how about this? This is 2 years in a row Josh Heupel's had 5 draft picks. Central Florida had 5 in the last draft. That broke Central Florida's all-time record. So I'm starting to see a trend here. Josh Heupel and his coaching staff, they know how to get players to the NFL. Here's 10 in the past 2 years. Talk about some recruiting material. I'd send that on out if I was working for the Vols. In the second round, Alontae Taylor went to the New Orleans Saints. That was a pretty surprising selection that high in the draft, but he killed it during the pre-draft process. Third round, Velus Jones Jr. to the Chicago Bears. That could be a hell of a pickup. That's probably one of the sneakier ones in the NFL draft, all the things Velus Jones Jr. can do on the field. 5th round, Matthew Butler to the Raiders. And then in the 6th round, Cade Mays to the Carolina Panthers, and Theo Jackson, Nashville native, to the Tennessee Titans. How cool is that? So again, 5 picks for the Tennessee Vols. And then next on the list here, for the Kentucky Wildcats. Again, they got some higher end picks here, but not as many as they're used to having. But how about this stat? I thought this was tremendous from Peter Burns of the SEC Network. Kentucky, through the first 65 picks, had more players drafted than Ohio State, Clemson, Florida, Southern Cal, Texas, and Oklahoma. Mark Stoops continues to be one of the best coaches in talent, in developing talent. Peter Burns hit the nail on the head on that one. There's just tremendous job. And this is, next NFL draft, they'll have even more, maybe have a couple first rounders here. But in the second round, Wan'Dale Robinson, how the hell did he go to the second round? He's going to the New York Giants. If they find themselves a quarterback, watch out. Josh Paschal, first-time, three-time captain in Kentucky history, to the Detroit Lions. In the third round, Luke Fortner, one of the best center prospects in the country, to the Jaguars. And then in the fifth, I don't know how this guy lasted to the fifth round, Darian Kennard, All-SEC, All-American, to the Kansas City Chiefs. How about that? Darian Kennard and Trey Smith potentially lining up next to each other. Oh, God. Good luck with that. Any defensive lineman going against the Chiefs. So Kentucky, again, with 4 picks. You know who also had 4 picks? The Texas A&M Aggies. Because Kenyon Green went in the first round to the Houston Texans. DeMarvin Leal, here's another steal in the third round. I don't know how in the hell he lasted to the third round, but the Pittsburgh Steelers with a great pick up there, DeMarvin Leal. Michael Clemens in the fourth round to the New York Jets, and Isaiah Spiller to the Los Angeles Chargers. That's another one that, pretty surprising he lasted as long. I think that says more about the NFL and how they devalue the running back position more than anything else, because Isaiah Spiller is one hell of a player. And maybe the biggest head scratcher here, Jalen Wademeyer, their outstanding tight end, didn't get drafted. I don't know what's up with that. Maybe, he kind of ran slow in the pre-draft process. That may have hurt him, but give me a player that's productive over a guy that can run in a straight line for 40 yards without any pads on. Wademeyer did get picked up by the Buffalo Bills, so potentially a nice landing spot here for the Texas A&M product. Arkansas, next on the list with 3 picks, Treylon Burks, of course, in the first round to the Tennessee Titans. Still a little bit mad he didn't fall to the Packers. 5th round, John Ridgeway to the Dallas Cowboys. Nice pick up there. I love Ridgeway. And then the 7th round, Montaric Brown to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And kind of like I was saying with Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, here's some evidence for Arkansas that they can pitch on the recruiting trail, in the transfer portal, I should say. John Ridgeway was a guy they had to beat out a lot of SEC programs for. He was outstanding last season for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now they can pitch to prospects. Hey, you come here via transfer. You can just, 1 year, and we get you to the NFL like we did John Ridgeway. We got him to the 5th round, and hell, there's got to be a lot of Arkansas fans that are fans of the Dallas Cowboys. So that's a win-win for everybody. Next on the list, Florida, 3 selections, including first-round pick Kaiir Elam to the Buffalo Bills. Bills loading up on SEC talent. Love that. 3rd round, Zachary Carter to the Cincinnati Bengals. And in the 4th round, running back Dameon Pierce to the Houston Texans. And that's pretty surprising. But, again, I think it goes back to how the wheels fell off there for Dan Mullen. Only 3 players selected in the NFL draft. Should have more than that at the University of Florida. And Billy Napier, you've got charged with turning that around. Also with 3, South Carolina Gamecocks. Some of these, again, I was pretty surprised they lasted this long. But in the 5th round, love this pick, Kingsley Enagbare to the Green Bay Packers. Kevin Harris in the 6th round to the New England Patriots. And in the 7th round, tight end Nick Muse to the Minnesota Vikings. 3 really quality players that all have a good chance to catch on at the next level. Mississippi State had 2 selections, including, of course, Charles Cross in the 1st round. But how about this stat? In the last 10 years, Mississippi State has had 13 players drafted in the first 2 rounds. Now, leading up to those 10 years of 13 players selected in the 1st or 2nd round, it took Mississippi State 31 years to have 13 players drafted in the 1st or 2nd round in the NFL draft. Just to give you an indication of, we really are living in a new era here for Mississippi State. So many elite players coming in and out of there. Charles Cross, just the latest on that list to the Seattle Seahawks in the first round. And another potential steal here, third round corner Martin Emerson to the Cleveland Browns. These should be two stalwarts of their teams for years to come based on what they did in Starkville. Missouri had two players selected, a Caleb Evans to the Minnesota Vikings, outstanding corner. And then, man, I hate to see these running backs go so low, but it's across the board. They're all doing it. Sixth round, Tyler Beatty, Baltimore Ravens. Gotta love where he fell in the draft, though, because with Lamar Jackson, hell, he seemed pretty upset, though. Who knows how long he'll be there. They love to run the ball in Baltimore, and Tyler Beatty, I'm sure he didn't want to fall to the sixth round, but he may have, making a fortune before long in the NFL running for the Baltimore Ravens in that offense. And then last but not least, Auburn just had one selection, Roger McCreary in the second round to the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, again, they love them. Some SEC players, nothing wrong with that. So again, Vanderbilt was the only SEC program that did not have a draft selection. And that wraps it up, man. That is a lot of players selected, 65 players selected in the NFL draft. Another NFL draft record set by the SEC, tying last year's record of 65. So the goal next draft is to get to at least 66 so we could smash yet another record in the SEC. And hey, that's all we got on this episode. I know there's some news and notes around the SEC. Wanted to really make this a draft focused one. I'm reaching out to some potentially really great guests to join the show. Cousin Shane, hopefully, he frees up his schedule a little bit here, and we'll have a couple episodes coming out this week. And who knows, we may have another in-person podcast lined up in the near future. So stay tuned. Now we're into May. Now we're really trying to stretch for content. So I'm going to try to keep it engaging, keep it good. I got some things up my sleeve to get you guys fired up for some SEC football year round. But I do appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out. We'll catch you on the next one.